Well, good afternoon, everybody. Joe with NDB Aviation, and today we are going to review the Honeycomb Aeronautical Charlie Rudder Pedals. We're going to finish the trifecta of products. We've done the Alpha, the Bravo, and now the Charlie. Now, this product was given to me almost 2 years ago, and I'm finally getting around to making the video. There's been a whole lot going on in the background, and that's why the channel's been so quiet recently over the last 2 years, last year especially. And this video is going to run as most of my other reviews have run. We'll talk about the design of the product, the functionality of the product, the value, and then the conclusion, trying to tie it all together and then give a recommendation or not a recommendation for the product itself. Now, for those of you that have watched my videos, you know my background. Skip ahead 30 seconds to a minute. But for those of you that are new to the channel, hi, my name's Joe. I have simmed my entire life. I'm in my 40s. I used to be a flight instructor. I used to fly at the regionals, and now I'm at a larger carrier, a captain on the Airbus A320 series of aircraft. And all of that time of being a simmer, an instructor, and now a commercial aviator, I bring all that together to give my viewpoints and reviews on any product I get my hands on to then help you all save money, whether or not you're training to become a pilot, whether or not you're trying to stay current as a pilot in a sense of just knocking off rust, or if you're just trying to get the best out of your flight simulation needs and save money at the same time, because nothing is cheap in aviation. So with that all out of the way, we'll go ahead and jump into this review and talk about this product. Now, design. The Charlie Rudder Pedals are actually a pretty good design. I like the overall layout. I especially like the fact that everything is enclosed in the unit. Now, aside from everything being enclosed, you have a combination of really nice plastics. You have very strong metals built in and working around within the plastics, and you have a good footprint. Now, it is rather large for a footprint, and it is rather hefty, but those things come together to house the Hall sensors, the adjustable friction for the rudder pedals themselves, and the adjustable toe brakes to then give you this overall unit that feels very sturdy and should give you many, many years of use. Now, it is large, it is heavy, so if you're building this onto a full motion flight sim setup, do look into the specs of the motors and the weight capacity, because you might find yourself on some of the cheaper units kind of butting up against those weight limitations and overall size for fitting these rudder pedals in there. Also, if you have a short desk between you and the wall, you might find yourself being pushed back further from the desk and then reaching further forward to get a hold of either your yoke, your joystick, or your throttle. So keep that in mind when designing this into your overall system back in your office or flight sim setup, wherever it might be. So design, I like it. It's good. However, the biggest thing that you need to watch out for will be overall size and weight. For most people, though, I don't think that's going to be a huge concern. Functionality. The Charlie Rudder Pedals function just like every other rudder pedal setup does. So if you're moving from working your simulation needs, say from an Xbox controller to a joystick to now having a full setup, so say you have the Alpha, the Bravo, now the Charlie, you have a lot to tie in together now. And you're no longer going to be using, say, the twist function of a joystick, or maybe you had just auto yaw on in the sim for Microsoft Flight Sim or for X-Plane 12 or Lockheed Martin Prepare 3D. Now you're going to do it yourself. So you're going to be flying the aircraft 100%. And functionality-wise, these are going to work as all the other rudder pedals have worked in the past. You plug them in via the USB-C cable, get them hooked up to your computer recognizes them, go into your flight sim, and from there, you need to then assign your yaw axes and then your toe brake axes. Some sims will already have this done for you. However, double check before you really start a long flight sim session, because sometimes some of the sims might kind of reverse the inputs and then you have to go in there and correct it. Outside of that, this will work via USB-C. It'll work on the PC and Mac. Originally, these were designed to work with the Xbox Series X and be able to fly Microsoft Flight Sim on there. I don't know what Honeycomb's future design is going to be with that, whether or not they're going to still push forward with that, because I know that there was a sourcing, or it seemed like there was an issue with keeping inventory of the Alpha XPC and the Xbox Hub box to make this all work together. So for now, I'm just going to say it's mostly PC and Mac. Now, functionality-wise, there's a couple things to keep in mind. Once you get these plugged in and you have them set up and assigned and you're happy with how they're working, there's one thing to watch out for in the sim. X-Plane and Microsoft Flight Sims 2020 and 2024 kind of take input slightly different in a sense of how they register everything. And I'm not saying they don't read a USB device differently. I'm just saying their default setup for linear input are different. So Microsoft Flight Sim 2020 and 2024 have a skewed line that goes up slowly. So if you find yourself putting in that rudder pedal input and you're not getting what you would expect out of it, go in there and fine tune within controller settings, controller sensitivity, and change that to a more linear line. And you should get more of what you want. Now, I have tried fine tuning some devices with still no avail and not being happy with how Microsoft Flight Sim 2020 and 2024 are set up for the overall sensitivity of input controls. X-Plane 12 does a better job and seems to be able to show you that whatever you set is what you get, whereas Microsoft Flight Sim 2020 and 2024 are a little bit more frustrating. So that's really not a functionality of the Charlies. That's just something to be mindful of when you are fine-tuning your sim setup. Now, value. The Charlie Rudder Pedals right now, it's November of 2025. We're about to be into the holiday season where everything goes on sale, depending on where you are in the world. And we see these MSRP for about $350. Some places have them down to $300. And many of the online stores have them in stock right now, ready to ship. So to keep that in mind, $350 MSRP, but on sale for about $300. We have about, let's see, I have my notes. We have 4 basic competitors at the $300 mark. What those are going to be, first we have Virpil with the R1 Falcon rudder pedals. They are well reviewed. They are a durable design. They look like they'll fit really well into a full motion setup. But there are a couple things I do want to say. These are opened in the sense that you can see the overall mechanical bits. So if you're setting this up in a sim setup that's going to work with children, keep that in mind that now you have an open area that little fingers could wander into, and you're going to want to make sure that you kind of have a safety protocol built up around your sim setup, which almost everybody does because you set expectations. That way, kids, young adults know what to expect and what not to do, hopefully. But at $279.95 on sale right now, MSRP for the R1 Falcon rudder pedals is $350 basically as well. So they are a direct competitor from Virpil. Good reviews, metal setup, metal frame. They look really nice and are definitely worth considering as well. Then you have Wingwing, the Orion metal flight rudder pedals. You have worn system with a damper, worn without. Most everybody says buy the system with the damper. The system with the damper is about $340. However, I will say this. If you are buying from a manufacturer that does not have a warehouse in the United States, you will be paying import fees and tariffs and shipping fees from somewhere else. So depending on where you are in the world, you may have extra pricing on top of what you're seeing on the website that you'll find out later on. I was looking to order a couple of products from a couple of different vendors, Wingwing, Virpil, and even Morza. And the Wingwing product surprised me when I put it in the cart, got ready to ship it here and buy it. And the price went from reasonable price to then adding another almost $150 for every other fee on top of it to get it to the US first. So keep that in mind for the overall cost and value of these products, because unless you can find it from somewhere that's not going to charge you for customs and everything else, you're going to be paying more for that product. But the Wingwing Orion metals, they look nice. They have relatively good reviews as well and a solid product and are worth your consideration. However, they are open. So keep in mind that safety protocol when working with younger adults and children if you're trying to teach them how to become aviators or at least open them up to aviation. After that, we have the Turtle Beach Velocity 1 rudder system. These kind of remind me of an upgraded version of what Logitech made years ago. They are semi-flat-footed, which is something I really don't like. I don't like the flat design on top. To me, that looks cheaper. However, they are made of mostly metal. They are slightly wider than some of the cheaper devices out there, and they look like they'll fit into a full motion sim setup pretty well. So it is worth a consideration. They're slightly cheaper at $320, and usually these do go on sale. And they are sold by big box stores. So if you want to buy something that you feel a little bit more at ease about to return to a store, this is something to keep in mind. After that, well, we have the Thrustmaster TPR. And the TPR is a great system. They're extremely expensive though. So keep that in mind. At $600, this is almost in a class of its own and is comparable more to, say, Precision Flight Controls and other companies out there that make dedicated sim setups that are for FAA-approved devices for you to actually log time in. However, the Thrustmasters, I think, have been built into a couple BATDs or AATDs out there, but they are a solid system, a solid setup. And even though they're almost twice the cost of the Charlies, depending on what your budget allows, they are something to consider. So value-wise, the Charlies sit right with everybody else in the pack. They are a solid system, and they are definitely something to be considered for purchase for yourself, or if you're gifting somebody a really nice set of rudder pedals this holiday season, something to keep in mind. So let's wrap this all up and draw right into a conclusion. Now, the conclusion, I want to say one thing. Honeycomb has gone through a lot over the last couple of years. And with their original frontman, Nikki, not being with the company anymore and starting up a new company, Meridian, Honeycomb is still pushing forward and looks to be ready to support all their products that they are selling, all the devices they're selling, and they have new products coming to market. They're basically continuing the same path that they had set out before Nikki was no longer part of the company. And I think they're going to move forward with all those devices. At least it looks like that right now. FS Elite has a pretty good review and talk about them recently visiting Honeycomb. And it seems like a very bright future for the company itself. So with that out of the way, are the Charlie Rudder pedals worth your time, your money? At $300, they really are. And this is something I want to talk about because prices have gone up on everything. You know, I remember when I was working as a contractor with SciTech before they were sold to Logitech. You know, we had the old rudder pedals. I really never liked those. And then they came out with the Cessna rudder pedals and that whole Cessna branded ecosystem. I really liked a lot of those devices. I really liked the Cessna rudder pedals because they were set up to be more ergonomic and more realistic in some ways. And that brings me to a point of you're going to pay for products that have a little bit more heft, a little bit more substantial overall build quality, and overall realism. And with the Charlie Rudder pedals, you get a product that allows you functionality that you can work with to then add more realism to your flight sim experience. Yes, they are heavy. Yes, they are large. However, those can be benefits. The biggest drawback for those are going to be if you have a small desk and a small area to work in, you might have to rework a few things to give you a more ergonomic setup so you're not basically simming hunched over across your desk just to get to everything. But you should get years of use out of these. I've been abusing them for about 2 months now. I've had my little testers working on them quite a bit. And so far, so good. Now, will there be one-offs or something breaks? I'm sure there will be. But it sounds like Honeycomb is going to be there to actually support this product. And it should be there for many, many years to go. Should you consider some of the other products out there from, say, Virpil or Wingwing or Turtle Beach or Thrustmaster or a slew of the other companies that are all bringing products to market? It really comes down to your budget and your needs and use. If you're trying to build an overall flight sim setup that you're trying to have a lot of realism and you're trying to move away from using your keyboard, your mouse, a joystick that has everything on it, this is a solid platform to use and build around. And you don't need to go out and buy the Bravo or the Alphas to make it work. You can buy these Charlie Rudder pedals if these are the rudder pedals you want, and then buy something else from any of those other companies. You can buy the joystick from Virpil, from Wingwing, from Morza, from Turtle Beach and Thrustmaster and all these other places. That's the beauty of the USB architecture is you can buy a multitude of other products and bring them together on your PC, maybe even Mac, maybe even Linux if you're using X-Plane 12, and make these all work and have an amazing flight sim setup. So conclusion-wise, this is something to definitely keep on your docket for something that you might buy for yourself, your school, your flying club, or for that person you're trying to gift an amazing pair of rudder pedals to. This is something to definitely keep in mind and look at and take your time with. So I would definitely recommend the Charlie Rudder pedals if you're in the market for a $300 to $350 pair of rudder pedals. I think they're stout, they're built well, and they should give you many, many years of use. If you have questions or comments, leave them below. But thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy out there, and keep the dirty side down, please. Bye-bye.